This video coming out has been in the future for billions of years, and now it's in the past. Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm your host Connor Monroe, and time could be randomly stopping and we wouldn't be able to tell. When I first started, I did the top 10 Nintendo fails, then we moved to Sony and Microsoft. Sorry for not including any games in that one, by the way. But what other company has failed a lot recently that I can take my anger from the fact that Stacy won't call me back out on? That's what we're exploring with today's list of the top 10 Blizzard fails. Stacy, if you see this, call me, suit up, and roll the intro. And at 10, Rehashing. Blizzard is one of the best known developers. Even if you don't know their name, you know at least one of their games. And their recent merger with Activision makes them even more of a powerhouse. Their three main universes are Warcraft, Starcraft, and Diablo. And while some have more of a mainstream presence than others, they were all created in the 1990s. Since then, they've only released one game that wasn't related to these universes, that one game being Overwatch. Even the games they tried to pass off as new were the same as the old ones. Heroes of the Storm features characters from all franchises. Hearthstone takes characters from Warcraft, hence the name Hearthstone Heroes of Warcraft. And the focus of Blizzard hasn't even been on improving the worlds of these games. They more so seem to be focusing on using these worlds in other smaller games that feature some form of microtransactions, which I guess is a worse sin than just reusing content, since I have almost every other version of Skyrim. And at 9, banning BLIZZCON. It would be higher on the list if it wasn't so expected, but you all knew it would be on this list. The banning of professional Hearthstone player BLIZZCON after he supported the 2019 Hong Kong protest caused a massive uproar in the Blizzard community. Longtime players ended up boycotting them, even if they have spent thousands of hours in World of Warcraft. The hashtag boycott Blizzard was trending on Twitter, and BLIZZCON even lost his prize money, which at that point was $10,000. That's my student debt gone. The ban was lessened from 1 year to 6 months of no competing in professional tournaments, and his prize money was restored, but this caused some conspiracies to arise. Some theorists claimed that Blizzard had banned him to appeal to their shareholders in China, or someone who held major influence over them in China. Others thought that it was a PR stunt, or that they had a personal beef with BLIZZCON and they used this as a scapegoat. He was banned for violating a term that is applied if you participate in a competitive tournament for Blizzard. That says you can't say anything controversial or that would harm Blizzard's image. I guess that supporting freedom would harm Blizzard's image. It got so bad that the company's core values had been covered up by angry employees in the office the next day. Savage.
Wow, what do you say after that one? Brutal, savage, wrecked, absolutely taken down.
And at 8, BlizzCon 2019. BlizzCon 2019 was quite the event, starting off with an awful apology from the Blizzard president. He started off mentioning the poor decision making in reference to our last number, but then doesn't apologize for that. He apologizes for the company not meeting their purpose. Then instead of saying what they will do about the situation, he listens to his PR rep and talks about what their purpose is. They never directly apologized at the con, and they never allowed any questions, which was my main point. There were protests outside BlizzCon, and the people who attended BlizzCon were not allowed to ask questions at the specific game panels to prevent the fans from directly asking about banning BlizzCon. And here's the kicker, when you bought a ticket for BlizzCon, they made you get a virtual ticket app called A-Access Ticket app. This app had a 2.2 star rating and thousands of negative reviews because it was deemed spyware. Did you like that dramatic turn? So Blizzard required you to install an app that had been deemed spyware to be able to attend an event that you had already purchased the ticket for. Yeah, during the con, Blizzard withdrew $500,000 from the WoW tournament prize pool after the crowdfunding had hit its target, which is even worse. There wasn't enough to really make a whole number on that, but here you go. This is what happened during BlizzCon. Oof. And at 7, Heroes of the Storm. The game isn't dead, but it's not alive. Blizzard announced that it was ending all Heroes of the Storm esports entirely, stating that the game was basically shifting away from active development, which basically means they gave up trying to compete with Dota and League of Legends. The game was never as popular as the others, and everyone was thinking it was going to be the next big thing. Sure, it didn't do terribly, hence why it's number 7. The characters were just from other games, and they never really had anything intuitive or new in comparison to any other MOBA. So that, in combination with hitting the market too late, caused them to not hit their goal with online or casual player total, so they axed it. And at 6, Titan. Titan is a cancelled project from Blizzard, which was intended to be an MMO. With speculation beginning in 2007, Blizzard revealed no information besides that it would be a completely new continuity, and not based in Warcraft, Starcraft, or Diablo lore. After 6 years, the game got cancelled in May of 2013, but they played it off as a development shift. It was officially cancelled in September of 2014, over a year later. The game was set to be a class-based shooter game, where the classes granted the player initial abilities, but as they progressed through the game, they would gain perk points for skill trees for that character. Apparently, towards the end of the game's life, there were several overpowered combinations and it was very cluttered and confused. The game would take place on Earth in the near future, where the player would work a mundane job during the day, but would fight enemies at night. Like a vigilante? Cause that sounds dope! There is a silver lining, however, because the assets they made were used in Overwatch, so I guess the game kinda lives on. And at 5, The Death and Return of Superman. You're welcome, Kelly. The Death and Return of Superman is a side-scrolling beat-em-up game released for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis in 1994. It was developed by Blizzard in conjunction with Sunsoft and was published by Sunsoft. So, for those of you who are gonna complain in the comments, there you go. It was published by Sunsoft but helped developed by Blizzard. The game was based on the Death of Superman comic series arc by DC Comics, and it featured several characters like Superboy, Steel, Cyborg Superman, and the Eradicator, and my favorite, Doomsday. You are able to play most of these characters. The game was a classic beat 'em up where you could only continue once the villains had been dealt with, but somehow he wasn't killing anyone with super punches. The game starts off with you needing to fight Doomsday, which resulted in the death of both Doomsday and Superman. 3 months after this, 4 different Supermen come out in an effort to replace the original. The reviews were not good. Next Generation reviewed the Genesis version and said, if you must catch a glimpse of your favorite superhero, buy the comic book, not the game. Ouch. And if you don't believe me, be my guest and try it. The game is $65 on Amazon. Are you willing to spend that much to prove a point that you won't really be able to make? I'm not. And at 4, Starcraft Ghost. Starcraft Ghost is another cancelled game from the Starcraft series by Blizzard. The game was announced on September 20th, 2002 and was going to be available for major consoles at the time. The game received several delays in development and was constantly pushed back for bigger and better things. The release date had been pushed way back and the game hadn't materialized. Plans for the GameCube version were put on hold in 2005, and in March of 2006 the game itself was put on indefinite hold. The company then spent the next 8 years contradicting one another about whether the production would resume or not, ultimately being announced as cancelled in 2014. Holy crap! Being put off 8 years must suck! I know that kind of feeling. Of course it wasn't a game, it was a girl and she put me off for 4 years, not 8. But it would feel similar, right? Ted Mosby knows that feeling. Robin put him off for God knows how long. Then she realized she loved him after he was getting married. Maybe Blizzard should have merged with Activision at this point and maybe the game would have been revived. See, I had a point to that tangent. And at 3, Diablo Immortal. Ha! And at 2, nah, I'm just kidding. Diablo Immortal is an upcoming action RPG hack and slash game in the Diablo series designed for online multiplayer. This sounds great until you hear for mobile devices. Why? Why would Blizzard think that releasing a mobile Diablo game was a good idea? This game was announced at BLIZZCON 2018 and that's why everyone hated it, because instead of Diablo 4, they would be getting a mobile game. Pretty sure that's why Blizzard announced Diablo 4 at last year's BlizzCon, because after everything that went down they needed the hype to stay afloat. As I said, the public hated it, being skeptical of a diluted mobile version of a cherished franchise. At the Q&A session after the announcement, one fan asked if the game was an out-of-season April Fool's joke, and another asked if they'd be releasing it for PC. When they said there would be no PC version, the crowd actually booed. The following day, the stock in the company fell 7%, and the trailers have the same like ratio as YouTube Rewind. And at 2, layoffs. In February of last year, Blizzard ended up laying off around 800 employees. The thing is, they didn't have a bad year. The company in fact stated that it had achieved record results in 2018. They had made $1.8 billion in profit, but according to management, the success wasn't enough to keep the entire company employed. The executives seemed remorseless, like they had no regrets or sympathies for those being let go. Where you or I would see people, at the company they were seen as costs, and the 8% workforce reduction seemed to be better for business. And in a phone call discussing earnings, the executives spoke about the 800 now jobless people in dehumanizing terms. Perhaps they were talking about them like that to avoid feeling bad about it, but having human emotions is what prevents us from making stupid decisions. This is not only Blizzard's fault, however, as they had merged with Activision prior to this, so don't blame Blizzard too much. I'm ripping on them a lot here, but I mean Activision is to blame too. Finally, in at number 1, Warcraft 3 Reforged. The remake of a classic real-time strategy game that was the cause of controversy in its early life. The title didn't live up to expectations set by Blizzard and, well, expected by fans. And even worse, to try to correct these quarrels, they released an update that basically ruined online multiplayer. Blizzard apologized, stating, "We want to say sorry to those of you who didn't have the experience you wanted." Which is essentially saying that we are sorry you expected something other than what we were delivering. So it's your fault. Sure, they say sorry, but they don't take any responsibility. It's the same thing as they did with BLIZZCON. They basically said sorry you feel that way or sorry that you took offense, instead of saying we're sorry we caused you to feel this way or we're sorry we offended you. Basically avoiding all responsibility for their mistakes. I learned this in school, it's not a good thing to do. But they did intend on fixing it. The players also complained that the cutscenes didn't look like they did when the game was first announced. But this is the same damn thing as the puddles in the Spider-Man PS4 game. Of course it looks different, they rendered it on a badass computer when you're just trying to play it on a potato. There we have it, friends, the top 10 Blizzard fails. Which of these made you angry, and are there any companies you would like to see the top 10 fails from? Let me know in the comments, and while you're on your way down, be sure you hit like and subscribe for daily gaming content and ring that bell to join the clan and level up. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been Shaman Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video. Suit up! I gotta do the... It's better because it's in a suit.